Hi, today I have my story box, and inside the story box are things called props. Can you say props? Good. Props are things that you use to tell a story. Today I'm not using a book to tell a story. I'm just using my voice and the props. So our story today is about a little fox and her friend Sally and Sam. And they're two little foxes and they're friends. And they live in a forest with lots and lots of trees. And on the forest floor, there are lots of leaves that fall from the trees. So I'm going to pull out some of the leaves to make our forest floor. There we go. So these are red leaves on the forest floor. So Sally and Sam were happy in the forest, and Sally had a garden too that she loved to look in her garden every day and count the flowers that she had in her garden. So let's count how many flowers Sally has in her garden. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She has 5 flowers in her garden. And one day Sally said, Sam, I'd really like to make an apple pie. Do you think you could go into the forest and look for an apple tree and bring an apple to me so I can make an apple pie? Sam said, sure, thanks, Sally. We're best friends. I'll go find that apple for you. So Sally waited, and Sam went into the forest. And when Sam went into the forest looking for the apple tree, he sang a song to himself so he could remember where the apple tree was. And in the forest that Sam and Sally live in, there are a lot of hills up and down. So Sam sang this song. Up, 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 down, 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 to the left, to the right, and all around. So he sang the song to himself, and he brought Sally back an apple. Look how big that apple is. It's as big as Sam's head, almost as big as his whole body. So he had to use his arms and his big muscles to bring that apple back, and Sally said, oh, Sam, thank you for that apple. I love it, but it's a little bit too big. So could you bring me one that's just a little bit smaller? You say that with me? A little bit smaller. Make your fingers go like this. So when you say the words. So Sam said, sure thing, Sally. We're best friends. I'm going to find an apple for you that's a little bit smaller. So he headed back into the forest, and he had to sing a song. So let's sing it with him. Up, 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 down, 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 to the left, to the right, and all around. So then Sam found an apple that was a little bit smaller. So Sam brought this apple back to Sally, and Sally said, oh, Sam, that's a great looking apple too. I love that apple, but it's still a little bit too big. So do you think you could find another one that's just a little bit smaller? Sam said, I got you, girl. I'm going into the forest and we'll find you another apple that's a little bit smaller. So Sam went back into the forest, singing his song. Sing it with me. Up, 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 down, 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 to the left, to the right, and all around. So then Sam looked around, found his apple tree, and he found an apple that is a little bit smaller. So, and Sam brought this apple back to Sally, and Sally said, oh, Sam, that apple, it's so great, but can you find me one that's just a little bit smaller? That one's still a little bit too big. So Sam said, sure thing. I will find you an apple that's just a little bit smaller. So he went back into the forest again, singing his song. Up, 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 down, 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 to the left, to the right, and all around. So Sam found an apple that was a little bit smaller. So he brought it back to Sally, and Sally said, "Oh, Sam, that apple, it's so perfect. It's red, but it's still a little bit too big. So could you find one that's a little bit smaller?" Sam said, "Sure thing. We're best friends. I got you. I'm going to find that little apple. It's a little bit smaller." So he headed back into the forest. Now this time we're going to sing Sam's song a little bit faster. Okay? So Sam went up, 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 down, 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 to the left, to the right, and all around. So he found an apple that was a little bit smaller. So he took that apple back, and Sally said, "Oh, Sam, that apple is absolutely perfect. Now I'm ready to make my apple pie." So Sam was pretty proud of himself because he found that perfect apple. So he gave it to Sally, and Sally went to make the apple pie. Now, what does Sally need to make an apple pie? Does she need worms? No. Does she need socks? No. She used sugar and butter and flour and spices, and she mixed it all up, and she put it in the oven for 60 minutes, and then she pulled out a beautiful apple pie to share with her friends. So they called their forest friends rabbit and deer and moose and elephant. Elephants don't live in the forest, but it's okay because we're pretending. And then they all shared the apple pie, and they had a great time. The end. So when a storyteller finishes a story and says "the end," then you clap. So everybody clap like this. Okay, so today we told the story with props. We got Sam and Sally and our apple pie. Did I use real leaves to make the forest floor? No, this is pretend. This is a boa. It's what you wear when you're really fancy. And did I have a real apple pie? No, I had some pretend apples in a bowl that I pretended was an apple pie. And I didn't have real flowers. These are just paper flowers that I pretended were real flowers. So you can use your own things at your house to tell the story of Sam and Sally, or you can make up your own story about whatever you want. So use some props and tell your own story today. Have a great day.